So I'm making this video because I really just want to have a little bit more dialogue about, I guess, frugality and a little sensibility and a little bit more of critical thinking when it comes to the outward things in life. Um, just from my personal experience, lessons learned the hard way are lessons learned for life. And throughout my entire life, I've never really been taught where exactly to place my energies. What is the most feasible things, because the people around me have not been what's the word, diversely exposed to the arrangement of things that we have, like in life and on our store shelves. So from my own personal experience, like, I have to buy into something in order for me to understand whether or not it is for me or not for me. So, and I think that's the case with a lot of people who don't make an asinine amount of money. You know what I mean? So, first, I guess mainly this is just about cars at the moment. That's pretty much what I want to talk about because, like, my personal experience, my bucket list type stuff. I've owned a Mercedes, loved it. I've owned a BMW, loved it. But neither of those vehicles are with me anymore, and it I don't really feel like it was ever part of my character, or like I lost part of myself because like I look at them and I appreciate the fact that I was even able to obtain those things in my life, coming where I come from, because nobody around me could tell me whether or not that those things were proper investments. And like, I know, obviously, listen, period in a story. If you're making under $75,000 a year, any vehicle, absolutely any vehicle, is a luxury. Would me personally, would I prefer to drive something with character? Absolutely. I mean, would I prefer to drive something that's fun to drive? Absolutely. But if you only have one option because of your financial standpoint, like anything that you can afford, you can make the best of, and it is 100% a luxury. So, like, for instance, this PT Cruiser, okay? There's really not much more you need. If you live near a city where most of your conveniences within 15 minutes or even a walk, like, my grandfather didn't even need a car until he had a family. His entire life. So yeah, I never really put too much emphasis on the outward things. As far as I'm concerned, every aspect of my life, I just want people to just like look at the outward appearance and go, meh, and never really think about like, like if I'm driving a PT Cruiser, okay, let's say the rims are just as expensive as the car. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing wrong with having a little bit of character, spending a little bit of money. Typically in life, you get what you pay for. Not all the time. You know what I mean? Like, if you spend $500 on a regular cotton shirt with just like a brand logo on it, you're not getting what you put in at all. But when it comes to like other things like appliances and first class airfare or vehicles, for instance, like, yes, if it's definitely on my bucket list. At some point in my life, I would like to own and operate a Porsche, and I would like to ride a Ducati. I don't know why. It's just that, why not? I'm here, I'm alive, I work every day. Why is having that experience that far out of my reach as just a individual, as a human? So yeah, one day, I hope to throw a leg over a Ducati and to drive a Porsche. I don't know how long I'll have them. They're not gonna be like, I'm not gonna associate my identity with them, but yeah. So I guess on the same topic, if if this helps you at all. You know, if you're going to buy a vehicle, right? There's a lot of things that you can factor in. Obviously, it's like when you go to the store. There's like 50 different kinds of rice. There's 100 different kinds of freaking, chips. 10 different manufacturers for for anything. So it's like the only way that you're gonna know is if, you know what I mean, you buy into it, you take it home, and you figure it out yourself. So like the first like half of my life was just experimentation. My entire life is just a crazy experiment. But over the years, you learn, at least from my standpoint, especially if you're not making stupid money, that um, simplicity is truly one of the only luxuries that a human being has. Period. End of story. Less moving parts cause for less chance of failure. Less material will mean less resistance. It's almost just like a physics lesson that we keep failing. I've failed many times. Keep it simple. If you have a choice to get something with 8 cylinders as opposed to four, I would go with the four. Not that there's anything wrong with 8 cylinders. I mean, I got a freaking car in my garage right now that I've been trying to restore. It's not even important. It's not important. Would it be fun? It's got 8 cylinders. It's got a fucking low end grunt. Fucking tear up the streets. Have to pay for new tires and brakes and shit. Maybe a speeding ticket. I mean, fuck. If you can afford it, go for it. But if I only had the choice like I have for most of my life, without having to make one step forward and freaking 3 steps back, I would just choose the simpler one. The one that's better on gas. The one that only takes 4 quarts to do an oil change. You know what I mean? Instead of going with something that is for the outward chauvinistic thing, aspect of it. Like, yes, I mean, I love driving. That's like one of the few things ever in life that like really like speaks to me. But there's 8 billion people in the world. There's traffic everywhere. There's dumbass drivers out there that are really just, if you look at a vehicle like anything more than a tool at our tax bracket, you know what I mean? It's going to be a detriment to you. There's nothing wrong with wanting nice things. There's nothing wrong with having something with character, but be very strict. Be very discriminating in your approach. Another thing, I lived in the Northeast, and I've lived in pretty much every region of the country in the United States. I've lived in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I've lived in Missouri. I've lived in Denver, Colorado. I've lived in Phoenix, Arizona. I've lived in San Fernando Valley, Southern California. I lived in Houston, Texas. I've lived in Florida. I've lived pretty much everywhere, and I've driven through almost every place this beautiful country has to offer, except for like the Northwest. I've never been like up to Oregon, Reno area, Washington State. But one thing I noticed is like when you're down in the warmer climates, you know what I mean. You don't need anything with 4-wheel drive or ground clearance, for instance. So you can get away with something like 4 cylinders, 4 doors, just an economy car, like just an urban commuter, and it is 100% feasible. You don't have to worry about snow. Obviously, is it better to have something with a little ground clearance in case of an emergency? Hurricane comes through, yeah. But for 90% of your life, living in a place with like a tropical or southwestern, you don't need any. But like if you live northeastern states or midwestern, I would go for something with probably a little bit of ground clearance and 4-wheel drive, and that would make, like I like mini trucks because they can actually fit in the garage and you can actually work on them without like necessarily needing a jack. You know, like if you need to change the oil on a Honda Civic, you're gonna need a jack. You know, jack it up. If you have a small truck, Toyota Tacoma, Chevy S10, you know, something along the lines of a Nissan Frontier, you get 4x4, and you don't even like to do most basic maintenance. It is far easier to do than on a compact front wheel drive car because you don't even need a jack to jack it up. Um, when I was like really, poor, I did own a front wheel drive car, and instead of, I legitimately didn't even have money for a jack. But what I would do is I'd just find a curb, and I would just pull up the tire where the, excuse my nasty finger, my nails are going back. I'll just pull up one tire onto the curb, and use, the, what is it, 5 or 6 inches of space to get under there and crack my my oil drain plug and do my oil change like that. And it worked out good. I never needed a jack. You know, where there's will, there's way. You can a lot of times think yourself out of situations. Um, but yeah, obviously, when you invest, when you purchase a vehicle, um, you know, there are a lot of things that go with that. You know, there's a lot of, obviously you need insurance by law in most states. You need, you need a way to take care of it, just like a horse in a stable. You know what I mean? Just like, you need to change the horseshoes on a horse's feet in order for it to run properly. You need to be able to do the same with a vehicle, or it is, like I said, it is going to be one step forward and 3 steps back. You know, you definitely, don't, like, why outsource those things to somebody who's going to charge you double, triple, when, or leave you on the side of the road when something like that is that important in your life. Um, like when you could just do a little bit of research, a little bit of investment on yourself, and you could probably do it. And yeah, make your experience 10 times better. So yeah, me personally, from all of the years that I've been driving, it's it's a very rewarding experience. The whole right to repair and stuff. I don't think I've never financed a vehicle for more than like 6 months. Like I just I've never bought a vehicle brand new. Um, but yeah, if it was just me at this point, if you're looking, there is definitely something out there for every type of driver. It might be old, it might not be fast, it might be, I don't know, but like I said, I would look towards stuff like what I have here, just like on display. Chevy S10, they come with little push rod 4 cylinders. Super super simple, and obviously there's only freaking a bench seat in the front. Maximum you can carry 3 people in that thing uncomfortably. But this thing, four cylinders, usually 4-wheel drive, really simple. The new Colorados, 4-cylinder Mustangs, another little Geo Tracker thing. Those are kind of expensive, but what I'm saying is it's good on gas. Probably only takes 4 quarts to change the oil, and it is probably so much fun to drive. So much fun to drive. Never driven one, but it's some of the same concept. Everybody knows about the Miata. They're really tiny cars though, like incredibly tiny. Mercedes has a few 4-cylinder options. Even the new Camaro has a 4-cylinder option. Old school Datsuns and old school Volvos are pretty stout. I hope Nissan does not go out of business. I don't know if they solve that problem. Ecotech, Saturn and Pontiacs, old Porsches. This is what I'm kind of like looking at. I really want a 911 for like the proprietary like Porsche Porsche experience. What I was gonna say is yeah, the flat six is proprietary. It's something you cannot buy from any other manufacturer. You know, like if you wanted sort of like a BMW feel, you could probably go with a Lexus IS, or, you know, they make a lot of straight six powered rear wheel drive cars that are not BMWs, but like Porsche, that is 100% proprietary. And they say that if you take care of a 911, it'll outlive you. But I mean, I guess time will tell. Suzuki Samurai, Subarus make pretty good. The only problem with the Subaru, right, is it's got a flat four engine. I don't know if it's really a problem, but it's just one thing you got to look out for if you're not going to be uh, doing the work yourself. The old Isuzu Troopers were actually a pretty good platform if you can find one that's not completely rusted out. Volvos, Volvos are really cool. I've driven in a few. I've never owned one, but they are so stupidly comfortable. Like, I've been in the many luxury marks. Lincolns, Cadillac, old Volvo. Even I can't even imagine what new Volvos must feel like. But old Volvos are the most comfortable cars on the freaking road. Um, and they're built like tanks. VWs are cool. These things are cool because they have a following. There's a very big aftermarket for old Volkswagens. So you know what I'm saying. So you can buy one probably for cheap. You know, if you're mechanically uh, sound, if you're mechanically advanced, if you know a little bit, you know you can these some of these vehicles can make you friends. You know what I mean, or at least acquaintances. And you know it kind of becomes like a lifestyle at that point, and I kind of dig that about cars. It's one thing, like cars definitely have a tendency, depending on which model you go with, you know, even the inexpensive ones, they they uh they can make bonds just because of how fun they are to drive, or how, you know, you listen to people's stories about like how the first time they drove it, how it made them feel, or I don't know. It's fascinating, but yeah, from my personal experience, I guess this really like my 2 cents when it comes to that. You know, the major bullet points are, you know, if you make money, but it's not like $75,000+ a year, and you know, you shouldn't be thinking about um, a vehicle as anything more than a tool. You know, it's just like shoes. Like, you know, you can buy a nice pair of shoes. Oh, speaking of which, you should look at the Magnus Walker Nikes. Those are cool as hell. But you know what I mean? They have a lifespan. They're just like any other tool. You know, you use it to get from one place to another, and once you get that down, you know, and it takes you places, and you learn how to take care of it properly, just like a horse, like back in the day, or a buggy or whatever. You know, you then can start appreciating, maybe even buying a secondary one that is more for fun, that is more for creating a lifestyle, that's more for in blowing off steam. You know what I mean? Hopefully, I think that's where everybody wants to get. You know, but like, yeah, in my opinion, you don't need to be driving around in a freaking V8 lifted truck every single day of your life. You don't need to be driving around in a freaking 10 cylinder, you know, freaking Ferrari or Lamborghini every day of your life in order to feel good. You know, like, don't get me wrong, I bet that feels good, but it's not important. You know, arriving on time, having something that is just mechanically sound, and being able to get from one place to another is one of the most ultimate luxuries that your free will can possibly allow you to have. So that's what I'm saying. If you just look at it as a tool, if you look at it critically and you say, hey, I only really need 4 cylinders, whether depending on my region, I might need to hop a curb, I might need to, drive before the snowplows get on the road. You know what I mean? I might need to, to drive across the field because I work, remotely or something, Then you can consider these things instead of just directly going to like the car culture, directly going to, flexing chauvinistically and, you know, I suppose these are just things that I wish somebody had like sat me down and told me and talked to me. It would have saved. I mean, it builds character, it really does. But like I said, in my life, everything. I mean, down to the types of food, down to the types of clothing, down to down to my airfare choices. You know what I mean? Absolutely everything in my life has been experimental, and I have had to wait patiently and be very diligent and disciplined with my money choices. But like, yeah, like I said, do I still want to drive a Porsche? Yeah, absolutely. One day, will I? I certainly hope so because it's on my bucket list. I don't, you know what I mean? That could be one of the greatest experiences I ever have in my life. I don't know. But I have never really gotten to the point where I was able to do something like that yet. But I will say, my Mercedes and my BMW, even though they took me much longer to save for and obtain, they truly were like I'm very I'm like very very certain that if they what they say, like when before you die, if your life flashes before your eyes, like I'm going to have a smile on my face from the times that I remember just hitting the gas on that Beamer. Like, I'm not even joking about that. It was I will never forget the time that I had with my BMW. And you know what I mean? Like maybe one day I'll get another one. I don't know. But is it important in the grand scheme of things? No, it's not. Can I still have fun in a front wheel drive, urban commuter type vehicle? You know what I mean? With only like 160 horsepower? Yeah, I mean, it's never going to compare, but you know what I mean? Like, it's like I'm still going to get to where I need to go and do what I need to do. I just, I really hope, for the best. I think, there's far worse things that people could be doing out there with their lives, but, like I said, just don't let it get to your head, Just think critically, make smart purchases, and when you can, yeah, venture out into unknown territory, like, anyway, that's my little one-sided conversation, leave a comment, let me know how what your car alliance is, or I love, like I said, I love vehicles. I do not have a particular I think they all deserve accolades. I do not have like a particular brand, you know, or something that I associate. As far as I'm concerned, like they're all freaking cool in their own way. Um, but yeah, be safe out there, guys, and just keep your eyes on the prize.